Unbelievable. Today, by the way, today's podcast sponsored by Zevia, a great cola with all natural ingredients, GMO project.
What?
Just so you know, for legal purposes, we are not sponsored by Zevia.
Zevia, if you're watching.
We could be.
Yeah.
Zevia, if you're watching, give us a call.
But we actually are not, though.
We're not, maybe. No, we're not. But we could be, Zevia, because we enjoy your beverage.
So let's pray.
No, we're not. Father, just get Zevia to call us.
It's a large chat.
I was thinking about this today only because I feel like we're being pushed. We're being culture pushed. Is that a term?
No.
It is now.
I just coined it. We're being culture pushed. The reason I was thinking about, I would get your guys' opinion on this. I was watching. Do you remember back when Stephen Colbert used to do the Colbert Report?
I do.
That's what they called it.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, the Colbert Report. They took the T off because his name is actually Steve
who I
Colbert.
hate? Stephen Colbert.
The Colbert Report, which he
stand
did
him.
that conservative character as just remember he would pretend to be a conservative character on the Colbert Report.
Love him.
And they had that guy in that was like basically lobbying for gay marriage, and before gay marriage was like nationally legalized.
Yeah.
And he was like playing the part of conservative Stephen Colbert, interviewing that guy, and he was like, so I'm against it. He's like, because if they legalize gay marriage, what's to stop a gay guy from coming into my house and gay marrying me while I'm asleep? But then they did legalize it. And one of the things that I was thinking about is like, I mean, you could probably look this up, or I could too. I mean, what percentage of the population in America truly claims to be LGBTQIA plus?
You ready for this?
Yeah.
It is 7.1.
7.1% of Americans, which seems like a high number to me because
That is pretty high.
we're like,
But I mean, if you
what
look
is that,
at
like
it,
20-some million people?
the breakdown, I can't do math like that, but if you look at the breakdown, I'm serious. Like, if you look at the breakdown, it's like Gen Z, makes up for like
It's getting higher every.
40%? Yeah. Let me check.
Makes
that.
up
Put it
40%
relative,
of the
like,
of that
7%.
7. Okay.
Let me see. Hold on. I'm just saying things now.
But is that's also disconcerting that like as every generation goes by, more of that generation considers themselves part of that group.
Yes. It's true.
Disconcerting from a Christian perspective.
Yeah. Not
But-
from a gay perspective.
Not from a gay perspective, it's like,
like,
great.
"Let's go, team."
Great, we're winning. But
We're almost to the end zone.
it's gross. But they
It wasn't meant like that.
I wasn't thinking about it like
you're
that.
saying that Gen Z makes up maybe close to 40% of the total 7%.
Well, let's check up.
Because what are they saying is in America now? Like 360 million people?
Documented.
Documented. That's what we're talking about. That's a whole nother podcast
A
episode.
whole nother one.
But if there are I'm just approximating. if
Right,
That's
right,
right. About 360 million people in the U.S. documented. You could look that up, Ralph, while he's looking the other.
334.
334. Okay, so I can't do that kind of math, but 7% of 334. I know 10% is 33.4.
So if we slice that in half,
Slice it.
And
And then we just carry the 2 and divide by 1.
17.
Yeah, so let's just pretend we know a number, but it's probably in the 20s, right?
Sure.
Probably in the 20s.
Yeah.
So 20-some million people. I mean, we all have calculators on our phones.
Yeah. We're
20-some million people claim to be 20-some million people of the 334 claim to be LGBTQIA.
Well,
I just
folks,
looked up gay people and I'm not getting any answer here.
Stop Googling gay people. I don't know what. But if we
You know what the topic of this podcast is going to be?
tell me.
It's going to be, it was good while it lasted.
This is the last one. Well, there you go. Okay, so let me just do this so because I'm going to be mad if we just have to throw out a number because no one pulled out their
I'm trying here.
phone.
Okay,
it's
about
23.38 million people that claim to be in that
Yes.
group. 23.38 million.
I wonder what
How many?
Yes.
What's the percentage of Gen Z? Of
Gen
that?
Z adults. They're giving me only Gen Z adults, and they said
Are there
that
any Gen Z adults? I'm just kidding.
there are. Me being one. They're saying,
Adult.
what do you count as adult? By every metric, I'm an adult. Well, not by every metric.
He has a Breitling, Ralph.
Yeah, I have a
Come on.
Breitling. Do you have a Breitling, Ralph?
He does actually.
Let's call it 7.1.
7.
The percentage of U.S. adults who self-identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or something other than heterosexual has increased to a high of 7.1%, which is double the percentage of 2012.
Okay.
But 86.3% say they're straight or heterosexual, and 6.6% do not offer an opinion.
Right.
Okay. Roughly 21% of Gen Z Americans who have reached adulthood, those born between 97 and 2003. Oh my gosh, I'm not Gen Z?
Nope.
I am,
like
but
you've
it's
been
just
lied
I
to.
wasn't an adult at this time. Identify as LGBT. 21.
That's 1 in 5 kids
Yes.
Wow.
Well,
that are
makes
now
sense.
adults.
When I went to high school, that would check out.
Jeez. So 1 in 5 of Gen Z adults. So going back to that, it's like there's this. That group only makes up 7.1% of Americans allegedly. But you think of the pressure that's coming from the LGBTQIA community on all kinds of different fronts, right? Pushing it. It's like paid for advertising that trumps every other paid for advertising.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it's pushed into every medium. Like we see it on shows, and now it's on all ads. Like
Disney shows.
Yeah, I was about to
Yeah.
say kids.
Disney shows, yeah.
and like it's in ads. Like you can go to any mainstream. Like Gap will do like an ad of like
Oh,
two
yeah.
guys holding each other's hands in their chinos or whatever. It's
And
in everything.
And I hardly think that's amicable.
Chinos are not gay.
Right? No, chino. You can wear a chino.
Chinos are not.
Yeah,
But-
just putting that out there.
But what I'm saying is, it's like, and I think, and churches are starting to deal with this, which is why I want to talk about it. You remember the guy? That's why I pulled it up, because I wanted to see like the details, because it was so crazy. You remember the guy that was the Christian baker that refused to bake the cake,
Yep.
right?
I remember that.
It
Was
was
he in Boston?
Masterpiece Cake Shop. I think it was in Colorado. I think he was a Colorado baker. Masterpiece Cake Shop is what it was called. But this was back 2012 or whatever. But they went off. Now the reason I'm bringing that forward, you just brought the statistic that since 2012, it's
doubled.
It's doubled.
Right.
So whatever pressure there was in 2012, in 2023,
Yeah.
there's more. So they went after him because of his religious beliefs. He didn't want to bake the gay wedding cake. The cake itself was not gay, but I put the modifier, but the people were gay and they wanted a cake for their wedding. But he refused to bake it because he was a Christian, obviously.
Right.
And to me, that blows my mind that it took that long. It had to go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Like that to me alone blows my mind. Because that means all these other levels before the Supreme Court put gay rights above religious rights.
Yes.
Think about that.
Well, ever since, what was the year? It's very recent. It was in the last 3 years that they added LGBTQIA+ as a protected people group under the Civil Rights Act. Ever since that, I mean, I can understand if that was, so like they did that very recently, but that wasn't even in effect
was
back then.
before.
So, I mean, it would make sense. I'm obviously not saying I agree with the fact that that's a protected class in the Civil Rights Act, but it would make sense legally that would be the case now. But legally then,
Yeah.
They weren't protected.
They weren't protected. And so, I mean, you go back to it and it's like, this is just like a timeline of the things that happened to them, because, they started going through, and they started in Colorado where they're located, obviously.
Right.
And they literally, they would not, like, for example, in Colorado, the bake shop had violated a Colorado law which prohibits businesses from refusing service due to a person's sexual orientation.
right.
So
Back in
2013, they did that.
Dang, that's crazy.
So you think about, and this was in line with the Colorado Civil Rights Division, that they would totally look past religious liberties and religious beliefs
right.
to prioritize prioritize sexual identity or whatever you want to call it over religious beliefs.
Yeah. Can I play the devil's advocate here?
Go for it.
Obviously, let's make a disclaimer. I agree with you guys 100% on this.
Allegedly.
So you think. What would you say to someone who says, why isn't sexual orientation protected like that? Race is protected. What if your religion said you don't like black people, so you're allowed to refuse black people? It's like, what if your religion says I'm not allowed to bake a cake for a black person, so I'm not going to bake a cake for you?
well,
that's funny.
What would you say to that comparison?
No, I'm not that is like humorous. But
Yeah.
I'm saying I think I saw something. I don't know if it was on a TV show, but the guy was a Jewish baker.
Yeah.
And a couple came in and they wanted a birthday cake that said "Happy Birthday Hitler," and he refused it. So
Yeah.
I get what you're saying with that. But
No, but I'm saying like the liberals would make that
argue, yeah.
argument. They'd say, well, why can't sexual orientation, you're still discriminating on someone based on who they are. What would your answer to that be? What's the difference in discriminating between race and sexuality?
it's because the difference between doing it because you hate a race of people, he's not choosing not to bake that cake because he hates gay people.
Right.
It's because he believes religiously that the action of homosexuality is wrong. He doesn't hate those people.
Right.
It's that he believes that the action of homosexuality is wrong. It's different if you hate black people and you say, I'm not serving them because I hate black people. I'm prejudiced. I don't like black people.
Right.
He's not saying that he won't bake the cake because he doesn't like gay people.
Right.
He's saying I won't bake the cake because my religious belief is that weddings outside of a man-woman wedding is sinful and wrong, and I can't, as a Christian, support a sinful union.
Okay, could you say that about interracial couples?
It's not a sin.
Right, but let's say in a religion, like let's take it out of Christianity.
Right.
In a religion, interracial marriages were wrong. I don't hate black people. I don't hate white people. I think
But
that
your
it's
union
wrong.
is wrong.
Religiously, in my religious book, it says that this is wrong. How is that different?
Find another baker.
Yeah, but how is it? How would you respond to a liberal who would say that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's
He
the
just did. He
what's the
said find
difference?
another
I said find another baker. It's free enterprise.
Right.
That's what America's about.
And that's
and
what-
if you have a business, you should be able to have the right to refuse business to who you want. It's your business.
And so you would say that that interracial thing, it's better for us to protect against that baker who doesn't like interracial couples than it is to impose everything on every baker.
Yeah, because it's my business.
Right, okay.
Now you're
That's what I was gonna say
forcing me.
earlier.
Yeah.
You're forcing me to do things. Like that means now that's you know what ends up going that direction is now the government can force me to do whatever they say is appropriate, and I have no say in what's
Right.
appropriate.
Which is what they're
You're
trying to
taking
do
away
now
my
because
free.
Right.
So they're trying to take away what is it? Their 501c is it 501c3?
3.
So they're trying to remove religious organizations' 501c3 status if they refuse to marry somebody who's same sex.
Right.
And they're trying to strip. So it goes in line with what you were talking about.
And,
What I was
that's where
gonna
I was
say-
headed too.
What I was going to say was, to me, when you said that, oh, we can't discriminate against this, group of people because of whatever reason, their sexual preference. What if he just said, like, what if the loophole is like, hey, I just don't want to bake a cake for you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you're
Right.
like, oh, you can't discriminate. Well, look, Your Honor, I wasn't discriminating against. I just didn't want to bake a cake for him because he was a jerk.
And
I
that-
think that it's better for. That's what I was thinking when you started talking about it. I think it's better that you should have to provide no answer as the owner of an organization. I should
don't
be able
wanna
to
do
make
it.
the
It's not
decision
your
to
business.
Not do business with you.
It's not your business why I don't want to do it. I'm just not doing it.
And even it may be like a polarizing thought, but even to say like if you were somebody that didn't like someone of another race because of their race, like I'm not saying that I side with that or that it's right, but you should withhold the right as the owner of an establishment to choose to do business or not do business with people.
It's my
based on
business.
how you feel.
It's
And
my
if you
business.
don't like how I feel about it, go somewhere else.
Yeah, because they're like, for example, look at how liberal leftists are trying to push business owners
Yeah.
into being pressured to do things if that business does not align with the leftist liberal agenda.
Right.
And the businesses and the owners of the business. Look at Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
They got thrashed because of their stance, their human resources stance. And so Chick-fil-A,
Right.
you look at businesses that are not run by leftist liberal owners, and then they're getting thrashed culturally because their business itself does not align. And it's not even the business, it's the owner's views that
Right.
owns the business doesn't align with the leftist liberal agenda. And so the business is they're coming after the businesses. If you don't agree, I mean, look at, it's the same thing we kind of talked about with the trucker convoy. It's like, okay, now why was that not wrong? That like, in the same way, they refused the rights of their business, GoFundMe. They refused the rights of their business to those truckers.
That's something that I feel like the liberal party can't understand is that every time they pick the lineup and move it a little bit, at some point in time, that's going to step on your toes for something that like Dave Portnoy did a pizza review, and some guy, like the owner of the place, like threw him out and was like, "I'm going to call the cops on you. I don't like what you do for small business."
I remember that.
So it was this whole big thing, and he was like, "I'm going to call the cops on you. I'm going to call the cops on you." You could just tell by how this guy was acting, like how his, he was a liberal guy, and somebody scrolled back on his Twitter page like 6 months prior, and he was like one of the people saying like defund the police department. And it's like, it's funny because now you want to call them because you don't like this guy standing in front of your business, but 6 months ago you wanted him gone.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of the decisions that the Liberal Party makes, they're moving the line they're being nearsighted. They're not thinking about like what could this affect. And that's why people may not like the thought of saying, like, if you're somebody that doesn't like a certain race of people, you shouldn't be bound to do business with them. Well, that isn't a thought that most people would agree with, but you have to look at the repercussion of if you allow the government to have control over who you do and don't do business with, then you've also opened the door to them for, like, when I got my new location for the building, we moved in, we signed the lease, the owner of the building owns the building outright, there's no lien on it, but then we couldn't do business until the town cleared us to do business. And you start thinking about it, and it's like, what business is it of the town's? This guy owns the building privately. I lease it from him privately. They've got nothing to do with it other than collecting their tax money. But now they've got the ability to tell me, until we sanction you doing business here, it doesn't matter who owns the building.
And then what happens when they find out? They're like, oh, the guy that's running that is, a Pentecostal Christian, and we don't care for that. We think that that's
right.
I mean, because if I'm right, what I've seen is that I think like evangelical Christians or Pentecostal Christians have been added to like the terror list.
I'm going to look
they
that
really?
up because
I've heard it several times.
I have heard that, but I've never checked on
like
it.
they're a dangerous group or whatever. Okay, so let's say if that did become the case, and they look and say, well, I don't like the way that they do things. I think the way they live is a very dangerous way for America. I'm not giving him his business license to run.
You know what I don't understand about that is people have no problem with classifying Pentecostal evangelical Christians like that and saying and grouping us as like a whole of people, because there are nut job Pentecostal evangelical people. There is in every group of people. But if you were to go anywhere today and say like all Muslims are radical jihadists, they would be like, whoa, you can't say just because that.
Right.
And that has
they have
happened.
no problem.
That happened on Bill Maher.
Right,
What?
but it just makes it.
That they were like that. Remember when the episode with Ben Affleck where he was like going off because of what was being said about Islam and Muslims and jihadists and stuff. It's like people can't even forget all. People can't even bear to hear that there are groups within a group that are radical. You know, and it's like they can't even bear to hear that.
But you hear people say all the time, like, well, the Muslim religion is a passive and it's like
Peaceful
okay,
religion.
yeah, it's peaceful religion. But then
That's a
if
funny
you say
thing.
it about Pentecostal evangelicals, they're like, well, all you're trying to do is always just share your religion with everybody. It's like, if given the opportunity, if you didn't know anything about either background and you said, would you take the group that the aggressive side of their group is sharing their religion with you, and then the other aggressive side of the other religion is like mass murder? Which one to you is going to seem like a less dangerous religion? But it's because people.
I also don't ever see any atheists protesting in front of mosques.
ever.
It's always churches for some reason.
They've got sense enough to not do that.
But like, think about that. Like, what I'm saying is like, and Ralph brought it up. The pushback. What did I call it? The culture. There's like
Culture push.
There's a culture push. So what is it? There's obviously, we know that there's like an anti-God, anti-Christ style agenda at work. You see how that's creeping in. He mentioned it regarding churches performing gay marriages, right? So one of the things that's had to be done recently, because again, it's like you talked about us having to throw that person out that was being disorderly in our church. People are under the impression that church is a public gathering. It's a private gathering.
That's true.
It's actually legally a private gathering.
And it's more private than even a private household would be.
Yeah.
Because the framers knew, like, what was up with religious persecution. They knew that the church had to hold a special standard that's not even more special than a private household, because they knew what would happen.
It's very private. So like when the cops come, they have to, and I've had it multiple times, they have to just let you know, sorry, if they don't want you here, you can't be here, because it's a private gathering. But the push that's trying to happen and this is what ends up happening with any Christian school that takes government grants or government funding or scholarships. You now can't keep your separation because now you're funded by the government, so you have to go along with whatever their stipulations are.
Yep.
You can't discriminate about your professors, your teachers. If you have gay professors that want to be part, if they're qualified, you can't not hire them because they're gay.
All they have to do is sign a statement of faith. That's really it. That's the only safeguard for our like we talk about like ABHE accredited schools. That's like probably the biggest Christian accreditation commission. All of these, Christian universities are that. But, you can have Catholic. You have to have Catholic people come in. And if they just sign, like, yep, that's good with me.
Right.
So it's like, what's to stop someone from signing?
Oh, and it's happened. Yeah. It's happened for sure. And so the big push now is going to be, you saw what happened to this guy, this CAKESHOP guy, had to push this all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. You know what's crazy is obviously probably as a small business owner, he didn't have the funding.
Right.
No. And so someone jumped in with him. So, as he was going through this, it was the Alliance Defending Freedom, which was a conservative legal nonprofit, jumped in to help fund and petition the Supreme Court to hear the case. So they have to go all the way up to where finally, think of what happened. He'd have just got stomped on if nobody helped him to get up to the Supreme Court. And finally, the Supreme Court ruled 7-2 in his favor and said the laws of the Constitution can, and in some instances must, protect gay persons and gay couples and exercise their civil rights. But religious and philosophical objections to gay marriage are protected views and in some instances protected forms of expression. While it's unexceptional that Colorado law can protect gay persons in acquiring products and services on the same terms and conditions as are offered to other members of the public, the law must be applied in a manner that is neutral toward religion. And big surprise, RBG dissented. Yeah. And Sonia Sotomayor.
Well, she's in a better place now.
She's in a better place. Yeah. She's smiling up at us today.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy that they had to bring this all out. They had to bring this all out to the Supreme Court for him to get a ruling like that. This should have been just immediate, to protect those religious rights. When we go to a church now, and I want to hear what you guys think about this because it's crazy. The way that because churches are going to be sued and probably already have been sued for this. Like if you perform marriages for everybody else, you have to perform marriages for us. So the way churches really have been able to guard themselves is having a constitution and bylaws that say we only marry members of our church.
Yep.
And then the membership is very specific.
That's smart.
Of
That's
what
really
it takes
smart.
to be a member.
Smart.
And you have to follow what the Bible says if you're going to be a member.
Right.
And so that protects
the government can't step into membership.
Right. Or the beliefs of a church.
Right.
So you have to be able to say, okay, we do marriages here, but only for our members. And we see the whole loophole is if you ever rent your property out to anybody that's not part of your church or a member of your church, you have to rent it out to anyone.
Right.
Because it's not about just forcing the minister to perform a gay marriage. It's like if you've rented your property out to groups outside of your church, then you can't discriminate from a gay couple that wants to rent it for their wedding.
Right.
Whether you do the ceremony or not, you're going to have a gay wedding in your church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the whole thing. So to protect yourself, it's the Constitution and bylaws.
Imagine being a pastor and like that's just crazy. Like,
I am one. I don't have to imagine.
Listen, imagine. Think about it right now. Imagine being a pastor and that happens to you where you didn't take the proper steps and now like you have to sit back and let a gay wedding just happen in your church and there's nothing really you can do other than go Old Testament.
Yeah, I mean it's rough. But here's the deal. Sadly, look at the vast majority. I mean, you guys have seen it.
Oh yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
Presbyterian USA, United Methodist. There's a bunch. Now, the Congregational churches in England,
all Unitarian Universalists,
Orthodox churches, they are hanging gay flags outside their churches. So they wouldn't care. They're doing those weddings.
Do you think a guy like in the case of that bake shop, and I think about whenever you see something like that, I think about the people we meet on the road and all the people we've met in like all these small towns all over the U.S. I find it hard to believe that a guy like that would actually hang with all the way to the Supreme Court like the gay guy, because it's like At what point would you just go, dude? Like, if you don't want to do it, I'll just go somewhere else. Like, I have things to do in
Yeah,
life
like-
that don't involve me spending a year going to the Supreme Court. Do you? And not to make everything.
And
a
it wasn't a year.
conspiracy.
It went from July of 2012, and the ruling for the Supreme Court wasn't until June of 2018. 6
that's-
years.
Right. So
and
like,
it wasn't the gay couple who did all that. It was probably most likely it was the state who picked it up.
Oh,
Yeah,
prosecutors.
it was
So
the
it wasn't
Colorado
like-
Civil Rights Commission.
So so it wasn't like they had to stick with it.
They were
commission.
just there, the face of the thing.
And
They-
probably just brought it to their attention, like, hey, we were
I just couldn't
discriminated
imagine,
against.
and maybe I'm just different, but I couldn't imagine even being the face of something like that. Not just being like, you know what I mean? Like, just pull my name off it. I don't need to be like. I'll just move
You're
on.
very
It's
different,
not the
Zach.
end of the world.
You're very
But,
different. We're not gay.
But also, if you're going to be, I wouldn't not see it, because one of the things that ends up happening is once that gets publicized, you become a literal social justice warrior.
Oh yeah, you're a
Like,
hero.
yeah, you're a hero to your cause. So
Because
like,
you've also set
into that
precedent.
community.
That's
that's
the
right.
biggest thing.
Setting it's like Dr. Rodney did in Florida
Yeah.
during the lockdowns, getting arrested to keep the church open. So absolutely, you set a precedent, and then why would you not do it? Because like you say, you get the credit, you become a hero to your group that you represent, and everything like that. And the thing is, you may not have the money, but there's plenty of these groups that are going to fund
step
you.
in back
They're
for it.
absolutely going to fund you.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Do you remember?
If I were them, I would have done it. I would have gone.
Already did it.
Taking applications now.
Listen,
Do you remember how polarizing it was, like in the early 2000s, when you'd see a sitcom and they would introduce like a gay couple?
Oh, yeah.
I remember it being like a much bigger deal than it was. It
I can
started in,
remember
like,
when
the
sitcoms
70s.
would be like, "I'm not gay."
Yeah.
Like it was like, you remember, like sitcoms used
was
to
the
like,
joke, yeah.
right. Like
Yeah.
sitcoms used to actually, the writers would make fun of being gay.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't mean like tongue in cheek like The Office did with Michael Scott, like where he would be like, you don't call gay people gay, you call your friends that are being stupid gay. Remember, like, so that- it's like it not like that, but like I remember like on Friends, they did that on Friends, and that
Yeah.
was in the
who did they accuse of being gay? Was it Ross?
no, it was just I think it was just like a situational thing where it was like,
With a woman thought that someone was gay. Joey.
Yeah, that's right.
Joey.
And so it was like that ran from 1993 or 92 to 2002, or it was 94 to 2004, something like that.
Yes, that's
10-year
actually-
run. A 94. So I mean, think about that. That's not like 70s or the 80s. We're talking 1994 to the 2000s, to mid 2004. That's
Yep.
so even back, we're not even talking 20 years ago yet. That's 19 years ago that show was on and ran for 10 seasons. If you did that now, your show wouldn't be running 10 seasons.
You think
I can
so?
tell you that.
Absolutely.
You don't think so? You think
Mocking
they-
mocking
come
gay
on. If they
couples?
did that?
Like
Oh, that's like
not
another
not
fake-
not
the
not
only
in
reason-
satire, but like
Right.
actually mocking it.
The only reason I
You'd
ask
have to be
is,
on your own like network. You'd have to be on your own.
I ask because
platform.
If you watch the Robert Downey Jr. episode when he was on Rogan, he made a comment about what was it Tropic Thunder? Is that the movie where
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. did
Blackface.
blackface?
Really?
And Rogan said you couldn't do that today. And Robert Downey Jr. goes, no, you could do it today. And Rogan's like, no, come on. And he goes, no, see, that's the problem. He goes, a lot of people have got themselves convinced we can't get away with these things anymore, but you can. You just have to be willing to do it. He goes, the problem is the victory on the other side is getting people to believe they couldn't do things like that anymore. And he's like, I'm not arguing whether it's right or wrong. I'm just arguing that we've
get away
created
with
a
it.
culture where people believe they can't do things, so they don't even try. He goes,
Okay.
so that's
Well, to push back on your point, they had something like that after Tropic Thunder in The Office, and they've cut it out.
They did.
It's
That's
not.
true.
It's not even. It won't stream anymore. It's when Dwight came in
As Belschnickel.
as Belschnickel, but he did blackface, right?
No. His Nate did blackface.
Yeah, Nate did blackface.
He was coming in to do the thing.
And they cut it completely.
Yeah, you
like
can't
even
find
on the
it anymore.
streaming episodes now, it's not on that part. Like
Yep.
that's cut out. So like, I mean, they're pretty hardcore. I mean, I can't imagine people at this point mocking, and not in satire, but like mocking. Or making it seem like it's a bad thing. Like,
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not gay.
So I just pulled something up. Barack Obama says he doesn't support gay marriage. This was 2012.
Right.
Hold on. What is
Says
that?
he
Is that
doesn't?
2012?
12 years ago.
12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Gay marriage is. He said I struggle with this. There's a clip where he's giving a speech.
There's one where Hilary Clinton says that.
Oh yeah, 2004. Let's watch this.
I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. But I also detest the sort of bashing and vilifying of gays and lesbians because I think it's unduly divisive. It's unnecessary. Most gays and lesbians are simply seeking basic recognition of their rights.
No, they're not.
We've got to make sure that everybody is equal under the law. And the civil unions that I proposed would be equivalent in terms of making sure that all the rights that are conferred by the state are equal for same-sex couples as well as for heterosexual couples. Now, with respect to marriage, it's my belief that it's up to the individual denominations to make a decision as to whether they want to recognize marriage or not.
So that's changed.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to gay marriage, I do not support gay marriage, but I support a very strong version of civil unions where I think the state has to recognize the same rights and responsibilities for gay people, same-sex couples, as they do for anybody else. Because the state is not a religious institution.
Oh,
and
how
I
the
believe in
turntables.
equal protection under the law, and so making sure that the right to transfer property, hospital visitation,
Yeah.
Pushing all the responsibility on the state.
Yeah.
You've seen the one where he
So now
talks
we
about the
can be
Bible, though,
neutral.
where he says, I hold the Sermon on the Mount closer to my faith, because he claims to be a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
closer to my faith than some obscure passage in Romans.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't even understand. Right. So the the crazy thing is that's a huge turn from they just want basic recognition of their rights.
But
Oh,
to
really?
say- but to say in 2012, I don't support gay marriage, and then and then
They
rainbow
all have
flags
clips
on the White
saying
House.
that. Joe Biden has
yeah.
clips saying
Yeah,
it.
Hillary Clinton does.
has
Yep.
clips saying it. Because they all stand in favor of whatever they believe is going to garner them
Oh,
the
of
votes
course.
of their
Yeah,
party.
of
It's not
course.
you don't know what they believe. I don't think they know what they believe.
I do.
Joe
all
Biden?
of them. No, I don't. Joe Biden
think
definitely
they-
doesn't know what he believes.
Wow.
Joe Biden doesn't know
I
where
think
he
they
is.
on the
believe
spectrum.
whatever their campaign managers tell them to believe.
Right.
This is what's going to get you votes. This is what
And at
these are the
that
talking
point,
points.
In 2012, they probably told him, if you stand firm on that you don't believe in
Yeah.
gay marriage,
But that's
it
how he
will
got
garner
elected.
you votes.
That's how he
Right.
got elected in 2008. He got elected on I don't support gay
That's
marriage.
why when people were like, so many people push back, especially against people like us, where they'd say, you really think Donald Trump's a Christian when he was in office? And it was like, it's not about whether or not he's a devout, serving, practicing Christian. It's about the fact that he's not shutting the churches down. He's not forcing. It doesn't. Not that it doesn't matter, because you obviously want someone to be saved and go to heaven. But
Yeah,
when
I
you're in that office, the biggest win for Christians, for the president to be in that office, is to not push back against what the church is doing.
Yep.
Well, of course.
Like 100%. There are people that will vote based on, well, he's not a Christian. He said this. He said, it's like ridiculous. But it's like, personally, I don't know if you guys have been following the primaries in the. Have you watched like the debates and all the
One or two
primaries
of them.
in the Republican convention? Like Vivek Ramaswamy, he's a Hindu, right? I would vote for him. Not because he's a Hindu, but because he has strong
His standpoint,
freedom beliefs. He stands for religious freedom. And so it's like, it doesn't matter, it matters in their soul and stuff, but it's like, it doesn't matter if they're a
Politically.
Christian. It matters if they'll stand up for Christians.
And then what do you do when no one that's running is a Christian?
Yeah, so it's like
It's like I can't vote because everybody's a sinner on the docket. It's like
But no one's ever voted that way. Anyways, in the past, like in 2016 to be like, well, he says some mean things and he said some bad things about women. It's like, okay, he's not going to be our pastor.
Right.
He's like our president.
Well, the other thing is when Christians go to that extreme, when they're like, I vote for like the Christian viewpoints. Like if none of them are like Christian, it's like, what are you going to go like examine their fruit?
Yeah.
You're going to go like see like what discipleship program have you been through? Like, are you reading your Bible every day? It's like, I mean, it's almost ridiculous. Again, you have to, like you said, you have to go by what is going to be. I mean, where can you best align your convictions with who's representing the nation? Like, how can you best align your convictions with that? And so, that being said, there's going to be a push that's harder than what we're seeing now. No question about it. Because, I mean, if this and this is a small, compared to this, I mean, everything's relative. Not baking a cake
Right.
is a whole different level of like, we refuse to let you get married.
Right.
It's a whole different level. And then go to the side of go beyond just like gay marriage or whatever it might be. Go into, you thought that was a hard push. Like you thought that homosexuality, lesbianism, and bisexuality, whatever, was a hard push. Look at the increase in pressure from transgenderism.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
I heard some people say that they shouldn't even be included in the acronym.
Like
Transgender people should not be included in the acronym LGBTQ.
That's a huge debate because even if you're a like Dave Chappelle says, if you're a G or you're an L, you're cool with the B's, but you're not cool with the T's because the whole it's a house divided against itself. If your claim is I was born with a tendency to like my same gender,
right?
And you are in the same boat with someone that says gender is completely fluid.
Right.
So
there is no
you
gender.
have no argument.
Right. So it kind of
you're in the
eliminates
same-
transgenderism's the actual thesis of transgenderism eliminates gays, lesbians, and bisexuals.
Right. Because then what does it mean to be gay? It doesn't mean anything.
Right. Just the same question of what does it mean to be a woman?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's basically what they would say.
That's
so literally, I understand the debate because it's like, and he actually voiced it very well because it's like, if you hold those beliefs that strongly, how can you then align yourself with people that say what you feel is your identity is actually irrelevant because that doesn't exist.
Right.
What you're saying doesn't exist. And so like, what do they then, because I know they want to make that argument. And of course, I'm telling you, the pushback is harder in this area than any other area. I know they want to make that argument for their own sake, that like gender's fluid, so that they can be transgender.
Right.
But at the same time, because they want that unity within the LGBTQIA plus community. They want that unity to fight the strength.
Because if you're just a T, you don't really have that many people on your side.
Well, I mean, like if you went from the 7.1%, what's you go to the percentage of T's.
Right.
You know what I mean? You've lost the LGs and the Bs. And the I's.
How many
and the Q's.
people?
You're just on the T's. I don't even know what
You know
A
what's crazy?
stands for.
How do you feel
Asexual.
about this? Have you seen the recent gay flag? Like the most recent, like the newest version they came
With
out.
the
They
with
just
the
dropped it.
You talking about the
just dropped
it's
it.
a fresh drop.
It's a release.
Yeah, you get that on StockX. I've been waiting there for the new gay flag.
Pull up the new flag.
The new flag. I'll pull it up. Let me look at this.
I enjoyed doing this podcast with you guys these last 3 weeks. It was fun.
Let's look at this flag here.
I told you.
Newest gay
Flag. Let's
flag.
look.
Oh wait, no. There's an L in that. There's an L. There's an L.
Spell check.
Well, look at this. Hold
Oh,
on.
that's brand new. That's a new drop.
It's a new drop.
There's
Check
a circle.
this out.
No, not that one.
No. Yeah. Okay. Well,
It's that one.
Either way. Yeah, I don't know what the circle is.
The circle and the yellow. That's
Hold on,
added.
no, take a look at this brown and black. You know what that is there for?
Tell me.
Brown and black people.
Wait, they just added race to sexual identity?
Which is like if you're
That's true. That's truly what that means.
That's what that is for. It's like it's for
The inclusive
so
progress
black
flag.
people and brown people.
And then blue people and pink people.
Right. Well, this is the trans here.
Yeah, I know that.
No.
You can rest assured.
I don't
the
know what
white's
this
not
is.
for white people.
Yeah,
they
let's-
wouldn't include.
Oh,
white
hold
people.
on.
No, wait. Is the circle with the yellow, is that represent asexual people?
Pansexual people.
Pastor Ted.
Hold on. You got lesbian, gay, bisexual.
Oh, look, it's got a diagram. Let's click this.
Lesbian, gay.
We got to buy this.
What?
Got to hang this in my room. Intersex.
Oh, it's intersex. That's the I.
yes.
So what's the circle?
LGBTQIA plus. I know that the white, pink, and blue is transgender.
Did the 2S thing fall off? Did that not catch
Yeah, what happened to
traction?
that?
So that's some people.
The
I don't know that
two-spirited
that's like
people?
a mainstream.
We
LGBT
saw it on
thing.
that thing.
It's definitely a thing.
So
Two-spirit.
for those in TV land, we saw a sign that said LGBTQIA 2S plus.
Yep. And 2S stands for two
Two
spirit.
spirits. Two spirits.
Two
So it's
spirit.
people that
Is all of
believe
this-
that
is
there's
all of
two
this
spirits
serious?
living in their body.
This isn't.
No, that's real.
And they're the most accurate people on that whole flag. They do have two spirits living.
Yeah.
They are right on.
But truly, that's what it means.
You heard it here, folks. Christian says that
Oh man, we got a thumbnail already. That is what that means, though. The 2S means two spirit.
Yeah.
Like there's two spirits living inside. There's people that actually identify as two spirits living in
Can
their
you
body.
look into that camera and like do this?
Yeah, just real quick. It's for Canva. Do it for the
So,
Canva.
oh, polygamy. That's nice.
No, that's polyamory.
Oh. That's the pie.
That's the pie.
That's 3.
That's for people that like math. So there's tons of flags.
Aromantic.
So they're trying to like
I know a lot of people
combining
who are
all
like
of
that.
these into one flag.
Yeah. Beer pride. Oh, that's bear pride.
Reading is
Oh, you
hard.
know, there.
Bro,
is very
there
hard.
was
It's the distance.
Oh yeah, it is.
okay. So we understand what it means, but here's the thing: what if you checked to see the percentage of people in America that claim to be transgender?
Oh yeah, that's what I was.
Because
doing
when you
before I did this.
separate yourself from the rest of the group, the all inclusive group, you're gonna. I mean, it's only 7.1% of people now.
Here it is.
If you separate,
That's why they did the brown and black, which is actually on their part is pretty smart.
Well, because their whole thing, and this is like a pretty the
because it
difference
makes their
between
group larger.
Yeah, the difference
because we're
between
going to include.
yeah.
right? So they're trying to make
So
it a
now
civil
there's
rights
power
issue.
in
marginalized.
numbers.
Yeah.
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 And if I go against that flag, it
It's
means I
not
hate
about
black
like
people.
I just like
Yeah,
to have
so
sex
it's
with
now
brown
it's-
and black people. It's not about sex with brown and black people. It's just like I'm including myself in that
Yeah,
group.
It's not. It's not about like
This is
sexual
gonna have to go behind a
attraction.
paywall. There's no way.
No. So, but the whole thing is, if I disagree with this flag,
Now I don't
Now I don't
like
like-
this. I don't like transgender. I don't
Yeah.
like gay.
Right, there you go.
lesbian, Mexican,
right?
black.
So
Well,
they're
any
taking
brown
it.
person.
They're taking it
Indian.
away
Yep.
from. They're taking it away from sexual orientation to simply marginalized groups, quote unquote,
that's
to
what
make
you were
it
saying.
harder.
So here's the number.
to make it harder to argue against.
Nearly 1 in 5 who identify as transgender are 13 to 17 ages.
Okay.
Say that
per-
again. 1 in 5.
Nearly 1 in 5 of the people that identify as transgender are between the ages of 13 and 17. The percentage and the number of adults who identify as transgender in the United States has stayed steady over time. I don't know if that's true.
I declare
That's
it's
not
not
true at all.
I declare
What
it's
the
not
heck?
true.
It's not true.
Declare and decree.
Our estimate of the number of youth who identify as transgender has doubled from our previous estimate. What? Okay. People
Define
13 plus.
steady and defied time.
Yeah. I don't think you know what those words mean. The people who identify ages 13 and up as transgender are 1.6 million people.
Right. Of the 334 million in America.
Right. 18%
Out
of
comes
people who
Mr.
identify as-
Calculator.
Yep.
So it's 1 point what?
1.6.
1.6
1.6.
million.
That is 0.004 of the population.
Yep.
It's half of 1%.
But
So there's half of the 7.1% in that group.
Here's a statistic that you'd like to know. 77,300 people of Asian adults identify as transgender.
That's what I was going to Google
Yeah, I
next,
was like, what?
right after that.
Yeah.
But that's half of 1%.
Yep.
If I'm reading my calculator correctly, and I believe that I am.
Correct.
That means of the 7.1% people that claim to be in that group, you only make up 0.5%. You separate yourself from that group. You know, you're marginalizing the marginalized
Wow.
with your thesis. If you separate yourself, there's no punching power
That's right.
because you've segregated yourself. You've actually gone back to what you were trying to stop. You've segregated yourself.
Right.
You've brought back segregation, basically. And think about that.
Just thinking about
half,
thumbnails right now.
half of a percent.
they're coming after you.
They already did.
Yeah.
They did
Oh,
in New
they
York.
did.
They already did in
Tell
New
that
York.
story to the people in TV land.
Well, I was marginalized.
Should we pull up the pictures?
Probably not, but
Yeah.
I was, and the funny thing was, I do find this funny because, when I was in New York preaching, the LGBTQ at that point, it was just LGBTQ. There was
Yep.
no I's and A's.
The eyes
They
of
were
the
the OGs, if you will.
The OGs, the OG LGBTQs. They came after me
Sorry.
because of the fact, and it was actually funny because nothing I actually preached that week was about LGBTQ
No, it
anything.
wasn't.
I was just preaching my normal, Holy Ghost, Jesus, all that stuff. And then,
And it was in 2020, so that makes it even
yeah.
like more tense. In
So then
their
all of a sudden,
mind.
All of a sudden.
no, there was actually a girl who came to the thing, and she
Oh, yes.
really felt the Lord touch her life.
Yep.
And I spoke to her, gave her a word. She was crying. and not because she was sad. She was actually moved, and she wanted to pray the prayer of salvation, which she did, and then she went back to her friends. I think she was a lesbian. She went back to her friends, and I think somebody in the parking lot had said something to her about like, Jesus can set you free or something like that. And she went back and talked to her friends. Well, they were livid. They were absolutely livid about the fact that somebody would tell her that she could or even needed to be set free from lesbianism, and maybe mad that she had come to church and prayed the prayer of salvation or whatever. Again, it made me laugh because I said I had preached nothing about that subject, but then they all launched at me as though I was like the guy stomping his foot on the head of the LGBTQ movement. Started a fake Instagram account with me, Ted Shittlesworth, and they started photoshopping me in drag,
Excellently.
kissing a dude.
It done very well, though.
Very well.
So well that I didn't even report it. I thought these guys worked so hard.
To be honest with you, it was very
this.
good.
And how much you've changed since that. Look at the graphics you make now.
I know.
I know. Great job, Alex.
I know. You're welcome. No, it was well done.
No, it was like they took time.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like I'm angry.
No. It wasn't like cutouts. It was like took the blend tool.
Yeah. No, they did it like it was a piece of art.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? This
I hung
young
it on the
man,
wall.
this young man works so hard.
I'm gonna hire him.
I'm just gonna.
How dare you
Adopt
assume
him
it
as
was
my
a
nephew.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. This gender fluid guy / girl /
Zimzer.
Zim worked so hard on this. I'm just gonna leave. I'm not even reporting it to Instagram, even though they're coming after me. And did like maybe 4 or 5 posts, and then came after me in the comments.
Oh, how many comments?
I mean, it was like
10K?
it was a crazy amount.
Yeah.
To the point where it was just
like a broadcast and everything, right? Weren't they coming like on the broadcast and comments?
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff?
that's right. They
were
continued
really,
on
like-
after the Instagram.
Yeah.
They like found me
That's
online.
dedication.
Yeah, they're fully dedicated. And so
And now to think that individual's running game shows at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh man, we got a story for you.
oh
Man,
well,
imagine.
that's the deal. That to me is just a piece of, and that's not even a big deal. Like what happened there, but like that's just a piece of. I can't even. Okay, so talk about what happened in Canada a few years ago with this, where there were warnings from the government, like if you got caught preaching against homosexuality publicly, the first offense was a warning. The second offense was a $10,000 fine. And the third offense was you went to jail.
right.
And from what I heard, it was like as much as like if you even preach Romans 1,
Yeah.
that you were, and to the point where they could come into your church and go through your archived television footage to see if you had ever preached on it. And if they found offenses, they could do the same thing.
Yep.
So I knew there were pastors that shut their television ministry down and closed it all off so that they couldn't be accessed to avoid the stuff. So like, that's the kind of cultural push I'm talking about, where it's like, it's not just about, we want you to recognize so the point I'm making is there's not space for both to exist in their minds. It's like, they don't want, as Obama said, they don't want just simply to be recognized, their rights to be recognized.
Right.
They want anyone who believes differently from them to be eliminated and silenced, to be totally eliminated, silenced, which includes the Christian church, which is why there's a push to like shut down the ability to do what this man did. Like if he's a Christian, you can't not bake a cake for us. If you're a pastor, you can't not perform a wedding for us.
Right.
All that stuff. There's a push. That's a cultural push.
And which is why you have to hold the line, because you can clearly see in 2012 it was something as simple as a cake, and as time has gone on, it's progressed. Now it's not a cake. Now it's you have to acknowledge and you have to marry, perform a ceremony, and it's so you have to take a stand, or it's just going to continue to push, continue to go further. And it's like, where is the line? When is enough? When is enough enough?
Well, I can tell you where it's not enough is like when there's been statements made to where even if you're a minor and your parents do not agree with your your desire to have a gender transition, then you should be taken away from your parents because by CPS because they're somehow abusing you.
Yep.
Was that just in Canada though?
That was
or was
in
that in
No.
the U.S.?
No.
That was in Canada.
Yeah, I
It's
think that's just Canada.
was not in the US.
I don't think that was ever done. In
That
the
was
US.
not proposed in California.
No, I don't think so.
Proposed is a different thing.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
it's
mean
like,
set into motion. I'm talking about they're proposing these things in the United States right now.
Yeah, but it's like passed in Canada, I think, right?
There's a story of a man who got his kid
Are
taken
you allowed
away.
back in Canada yet?
No,
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, y'all.
because there's literally that's the push. The push is like, what about we're coming for your children? I mean, like if you look at the depths to which they want to push that, where it's, you can't. That's why there's people standing up and speaking out that aren't even Christians. It's like
People that are in their own camp, you have people that they would try to build a house on, like Caitlyn Jenner, who would say, like, I don't agree with anything there. She's said it on podcasts before. She's been like, I don't
You talking about
agree.
Bruce Jenner?
Yeah,
Good
Bruce,
on,
Caitlyn.
good on you.
You know,
Hey.
I'm trying to be
Hey.
Good on you.
trying to be accepting.
For not
Way to go, buddy.
She's been around for so long. You know what I'm
Wow,
saying? You know
good
what
for
I'm
you,
saying?
buddy.
He.
Hey,
You talking about Bruce?
I'll
or-
go down
You're-
with you guys.
you're an
together.
ally.
I'll go down with you guys.
Going down with the ship.
We'll go down together. He said, I don't agree with what the extreme, with the extreme lines that the LGBTQ plus community is pushing. So they would try to build a house on somebody like that. You know,
You can't buy cigarettes. You can't vote. You can't drink. You can't drive a
can get a
motor
sex
vehicle, but you can get your balls cut off,
yeah,
turned into a
and
meme.
not just
there
the
you go.
balls,
Huh?
not just the balls.
No, all of it.
All of it.
Twig and berries.
Yeah, yeah. I can't vote or buy alcohol or drive a car or smoke a
PG-13.
cigarette.
Yep.
But I am definitely in the right state of mind to decide for the rest of my life.
You remember? Speaking of that, you remember when we were at that church? And I've asked you about
Speaking of
this.
getting your genitals
Yeah,
cut off, you
yeah.
remember we were at that church?
When it was the first meeting I ever traveled with you alone. I've brought this up to you, and you've denied that this ever happened. But I've corroborated with Pastor Carolyn. I've corroborated with my grandmother and my mom. We're all watching the live
Not
stream.
Gammy.
And Jenna was watching the live stream.
Well,
And you introduced. It was like the first night. You were like, so glad to be. It was a new church. So glad to be with you all. Where God's going to move powerfully. I'm so thankful I get to travel with my team and my family. We don't have, my wife and kids aren't with us, but my nephew Alex is taking pictures in the back. Ladies, he's single. He's single. People laugh. He goes, but he's a eunuch. Anyways, turn in your Bible.
I actually do remember that.
Yeah, you said that from the Bible. But the funny part was nobody laughed.
Nobody laughed.
It was just like,
you want to know
They
why?
began
I'm
to
sorry
feel.
to hear
They
that.
began to feel bad for you. Very
Nobody
bad.
knew what a eunuch was.
nobody knows.
So
They
that's
were
why
like,
didn't-
eunuch. Yeah, I think they just felt really bad for you. Several people started praying.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What a thing to say
Just
from
wanna-
the platform.
Just want to
Yeah,
just want to say sorry about that.
That'll be in the memoirs.
Yeah.
Chapter 1, Ted Tim Tiff Terry. Chapter 2, My Nephew the Eunuch.
These are just some bits that I've been working on.
Yeah, just trying out some material with you folks before we get into the
Anyways,
word.
Turn in your Bible.
No, but I'm pretty. It's amazing. You got unsaved people pushing back hard against that, as they should, No person that's a minor. I mean, I guess if you're an adult and that's what you want to do, God bless you.
How did
Which
none
you
of the
won't, but-
stories
Good
of
on
the-
you.
How do none of the stories that they do of the people who have the surgery and then like regret
Regret
it?
it.
They're
Oh,
always
okay, so
pulled
there's-
down
I wanna know the
so
rate. I
hard.
wanna
No,
know
but
the rate.
here's the thing. Every time you bring this up, there's all this pushback about, like, well, the studies, the studies are skewed. The studies don't really show that. Like that people regretted it and had more depression and had more anxiety after they were in the body they felt like they should have been in. Like there's all this, right? There's all this pushback. Like people act like it's not true. Whereas, supposedly the studies were showing that it wasn't helpful. Like people that felt depressed and anxious and
The
everything.
suicide rate goes up exponentially.
Right.
after.
That was supposedly the study.
Yeah.
That the suicide rate, people that felt depressed and anxious and suicidal because they felt like they were born in the wrong body, when they had the transitional surgery and got the body that they felt like they should have been born in, then the suicide rates went up, not down. The depression, the anxiety went up and not down. What source are you citing?
Well,
Because I've looked at that and seen it. I mean, obviously it's important to have a source, but like, right now I can't give you a source. I've read, but I'm interested because then you get pushbacks like that's not true. The studies actually show the opposite.
I've heard that people just pin it on the back of, well, it's because they're not culturally accepted. You know, it's like
So which is
as
it?
a real
Yeah.
as a
Well, no. They'll say like, oh, the suicide rate going up is because people are discriminating.
It's not because the surgery didn't work. It's
Right.
because even though they got the surgery,
Society's
society
not-
still discriminates against them because they had the surgery. So what are they going to argue, that there's actually no way out for people that are consider themselves to be transgender? That there's actually no answer? Is that what they're going to argue? Because if the surgery doesn't work because you're still culturally unaccepted,
They'll say the answer is that society welcomes it with open arms and doesn't say anything. That would be the end conclusion.
so whatever we can do to force society
Yep.
to open themselves up to this idea. It's just funny because everyone's cool with someone that's a public figure until they go against the agenda. So they go against the look at Russell Brand now.
I was just going to say, I don't know how far down that rabbit hole you want to go, but Russell Brand is getting attacked. And then you look at
Wait, hold on.
Cardi B.
Are those because of the
Supposed
their allegations?
allegations of himself forcing himself sexually on women.
Okay.
So here's the deal, though. Talking about that with Russell Brand, and I saw somebody tweet this, and again, I don't know what he did or didn't do, but when you're a rich celebrity
Yep.
that is also a known womanizer,
Yep.
and is sleeping with hundreds of women, probably if not in the thousands of women as you travel.
He said it was in the thousands.
Right.
He's said
okay.
that before.
So if it's in the thousands, who do you think? Like, why does anybody think if you're that freely having sex, why does anybody think that you'd have to force yourself on anybody? If there's a line of women out the tour bus,
Plus,
it's like, and then if you are that rich and you get, it's like 20 years later and you're even much more famous and that much more wealthy, what percentage of the women that you have slept with that was consensual do you think would be willing to come forward?
Oh yeah. Well, because this is how it goes. The news outlets will say, "We'll give."
And again,
you
I'm
this
not victim
money."
shaming.
Right.
This was a great podcast
late.
these
Too
last
late.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
yeah, but you look at so
the title.
YouTube demonetized his channel and took him down because of the allegations. But
Right.
a tweet that I saw yesterday that was funny was that Cardi B openly admitted to drugging, sleeping with, and robbing men, and her YouTube channel is still monetized.
Now that's wrong.
right.
I do not agree. I don't think anyone should ever drug.
Listen to me right now.
What was the second thing?
Sleep with,
Sleep with,
Forcefully.
and then
rape.
rob.
Listen,
yeah,
rape or
whatever
rob.
you wanna
I
call
don't
it.
care how many friends I
order.
lose over this.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
It is it's a sinful thing.
Rape is bad.
When Dave Portnoy had those same allegations that Russell Brand has right now, that he was like forcing himself on women, the women came forward and said like the mainstream media has reached out to us and offered us money just because they know we've slept with them. They've been like, if you have a story to tell, we would give you this much money to tell it if you do have a story.
But they hide it behind we're paying you for your story.
Right.
They did the same
Right.
thing with
Fishing.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
So
That's
the
bribing.
women that slept or that Dave Portnoy slept with like came forward and said, they didn't say like he forced. They said they're offering us money to fabricate stories against Dave.
Right.
So but they said this is how they frame it. They call and they go, we know that you had a relationship with Mr. Portnoy. If you have a story to tell,
Yeah.
we would be willing to pay up to $10,000 for that story. So it's like, obviously baiting them into saying something. But it's funny that because Russell Brand has spent the last 3 years talking against COVID, talking against everything,
Went the opposite direction of like totally opposite direction. Yeah.
and then he gets an allegation and they take him down completely.
And it was more than one, right? It was like 5 or 6.
But he said he did this whole 20-minute long podcast where he said, I received a written letter from one mainstream media company. And he was like, I won't mention them because it doesn't matter. But he said it was a written letter from one and an email from another. And they gave me a warning that if you don't stop saying the things you're saying publicly, these are the allegations that are going to come forward. So he's like, the big problem I have with that is, let's say I was guilty. You shouldn't be offering me an out to stop saying the things you don't like.
that's
You
true.
should just go live with the story.
Right.
If you think I really did that, you shouldn't give me an out. You should
Right.
just run the article.
Yeah, exactly
Doesn't work
right.
like that.
It's like that guy, that pastor who's like lost his mind. That was like he was real big during the pandemic and he was real political. And but then I heard him preaching. He
about
was
to
like,
say a name,
yeah,
my bad.
yeah. And he and his
Say it. You
as
have to
he was
apologize.
as he was doing all that, he gets up, and I guess he was like against the, like word of faith movement, but I guess also, I don't know. He was like, I'm gonna tell you something. I've got proof. Y'all listening to that Kenneth Copeland? Y'all listen to that Joel Osteen? I got proof that they're pedophiles, and they better be careful because I'll release that. It's like, if you have proof
And you don't
release it, you are complicit in that crime. You are going to jail. You fool. You absolute dummy. You bozo. That guy's a
throw the B
bozo,
word
by the
on
way.
him.
That guy's a bozo.
Don't throw the B word
Tough
on
to
him.
come back from bozo.
Yeah, I know.
You
That's
get
a
that
pretty.
insult hurled at you.
It's tough to come back from having your nose honked on the streets.
True, that is tough.
And I honked a guy's nose one time in downtown Boston. Honked his nose and said honk when I did it.
There's certain things you just don't come back from.
Like when you're a full-grown man and you get your nose honked and the guy says honk when he does it.
What was his response?
He was like, oh, like he was, well, because at the same time, another pastor was with me, popped him in the stomach at the same time.
Double win.
But he was coming after our wives.
Was there a third one that was a
Hide your
brother?
kids.
named
Yeah.
Curly?
No.
On a later interview, he said that the
we turned
honking
into
was
the
much worse.
we turned into the Three Stooges.
Yeah, what?
So I poked his eyes like that.
Took a cast iron pan and hit him against the head.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
It reminds me of that one pastor
Oh.
that you kept getting over and over again. Oh, you got me again.
Speaking of that,
You
we
want a
should do
good
some prank
Italian
calls.
restaurant?
We should do some
We should
prank
do,
calls.
We should do an episode of prank calls.
It'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
We could
We're gonna
probably
have
hook.
to rename it. It's going to be a different podcast because this one's done.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, we got to get a new YouTube channel.
Yeah. Hey, it was great knowing you guys for these
Yeah.
3 episodes, but
We really
How
built
about
an
that
empire.
screenshot I sent you the other night? Just because I said that name, they took the video. We weren't even like saying
The
we were
name
in
above, yeah.
favor, but we said a name that rhymes with
It was Andrew Tate.
Andrew Bate,
Yeah.
and TikTok took it down.
really,
Well,
we
they
weren't
showed a
saying
screen
like
that said hateful and
yeah, and
like,
all I said was
brother.
that I think
Hateful people.
that he is.
awesome.
Yeah, I think he's the best. I
Going
agree with
back to
everything
the
he says.
honking the nose thing. What is an insult that you've received in elementary school, middle school, or high school that was just like devastating? Or have you? Or has there been an embarrassing
Ralph's
moment that
always
you're
been
like,
pretty big. I've always been pretty big. People just didn't really insult us
You've never gotten one insult or one thing that was like embarrassing in high school?
in high school.
Yeah.
I was big in high school, so it's like
You've never done anything embarrassing in high school?
well, it's not that I didn't necessarily
Well,
do
no,
anything
something
embarrassing.
was happened, you were like,
Nobody was
dang.
like ragging on me.
Yeah.
It's like hard to
You
rag
play
on like a
sports.
6'3",
True.
200-pound dude in high school.
Yeah, me too, guys.
Yeah, I know. I know you had
Shrunk.
You remember when you were on the curling team with the broom down the ice?
Varsity, okay?
Varsity
Not
curling.
JV.
You had the C on your varsity jacket. I never had any of that stuff. I mean, like
Zach, come on.
I don't know.
Zach was back then. He
I would
was
have to
running the
think.
streets.
Yeah, I would have to
Running
think.
them
I don't really
streets.
know.
Walking them streets.
I don't really know. I could think that
It
there's some
feels
funny
like
things
you're
you'd be
the
tough
only
to
one that was
This
harassed.
is really turned against
As
me,
you're
man.
asking this question,
There's been something.
It's turning into a therapy session.
I
guys.
don't know.
Hey, what about you guys? Have you ever been hurt in school? I know we just got talking about discrimination. What about you three?
Next topic.
You ever
guys,
had your feelings hurt in school?
How old were you when your dad first hugged you?
What was it like when your parents told you they adopted you?
Have you guys ever heard your parents say "I love you"? I heard it
Your
once.
story of irreparable damage on your soul when that guy said that thing about you in 8th grade and you couldn't come back from it and you fell asleep crying.
What were you trying to? What were you hoping to get out of
What would be the most embarrassing? Honking the nose is pretty bad.
Oh, okay,
what
I
would
see.
be the most embarrassing
You know,
thing?
That's. I mean, it's just like it's not
That's
just,
just
that
like
bad. It's
degrading.
like it's degrading. It's like it makes you like a little boy.
That's
know?
what happened in that Portnoy review. He called the guy a fatso. And in the comment section, people are like, you can come back from a lot, but you
that's
can't come back from being called a fatso.
That's like if you say something like bozo. Like that's pretty like. You know, there's a study that shows that, like it's worse for someone instead of getting the middle finger to get the thumbs down.
Really?
Like on the Zuck is like instead of getting angry, they go, I wonder why they gave me the thumbs down. So next time you feel
I'm gonna
rubbish,
start giving people the thumbs down.
be like, stick your tongue out.
I'm gonna start giving people 2 thumbs down.
Hey,
2 thumbs down. No, I'm gonna make them wait and do like Gladiator and do that this way, and then go down with it.
Where are you gonna do this at?
On the streets.
In the
On
grocery
the
store.
streets. On these mean streets.
man.
Coral Springs.
Now people know where we live. We're gonna have to
know,
pack
that's
up and move.
Yeah,
It's
what?
good. Just revealed our location.
Edit that.
I have to cut that out.
This is Ralph Tyrone Joyner.
Give him the government name.
Would you like to play pickleball with us later? This is Ralph Tyrone
Tell
Joyner.
him the story. Tell him.
So what had happened was we were playing pickleball with this unassuming gentleman. I'm not taking your side, by the way. This unassuming gentleman.
I'm gonna do it to you one day.
This unassuming. Yeah, who do I mean? Like, my name is Alexander Robert Iaquinto. For all those who are watching,
It was just
this guy. Okay, we'd start playing pickleball with this guy. He was a real nice
was a
guy.
nice dude, though.
He was a nice dude in the neighborhood. And
Totally.
He started with us, and for some reason, Pastor Ted over here was like, "My name's Ted Shuttlesworth. This is Ralph Joyner over here." And Ralph goes, "Dang, gave him my government name."
the whole
Like,
name.
as if.
This is not the only time this has happened.
But here, there's two sides. Number one, that you felt the inclination to give him your.
That's how you introduce yourself
my
to
name's
someone.
Ted Shuttlesworth Jr.
I don't know if I said Junior, but I said I'm Ted Shuttlesworth.
It was just
Seems
Ted
impersonal to just say, "Hi, I'm Ted."
Yeah,
Seems
like if
more
you're like,
personal, actually.
I feel like if you're introducing yourself to somebody, but I
I've
can't,
never
but I'm
once-
not. Nobody agrees with me on this. Nobody agrees with me on this. But like, I'm just. It also could be because I don't know why. Maybe
I
it's,
don't know why.
If you said that to me, I would think that should I know this guy?
Well, that's what most people think.
Yeah, like is this guy like famous?
And the
something?
answer is yes. You should
David
know me.
Portnoy. Like
That's why I'm introducing myself to you.
Do you not know who I am?
Right.
I did this thing where
Stop
I was
acting
going
like you
through
don't know who I am.
I have a TV program that airs in 180 nations of
Yeah,
the world.
but you're probably never seen it. What nation do you live in, bozo?
America and-
Honk. No, 'cause the other side of that was I went into the Breitling store
Yes.
and I
yeah,
walked up
that's
to the dude
Subtle flex.
and
Subtle flex. No
yeah, I
big
was
deal.
browsing some Breitlings and
Profits and watches. Profits and watches.
I walked in and I said, I can own all of these.
yeah. So I go up to the dude and
out.
he's like getting. I think we bought what, like links and straps or something. We were getting some for the thing.
That's all we could
And,
afford.
and he goes, yeah, I wear the link with a strap every now and then. But no, the guy's like, all right, let me get some. He's like, I wasn't even filling out any forms or anything. I was just talking to him at the end before I was leaving. And so he was like, hey, it's nice to meet you. And I shook his hand. I was like, I'm Ted Shuttlesworth. And he was like, looking at me, just kind of nodding. And he was like, are you famous? And I was like, no, I was like, maybe you saw me on television. But he was like, well, I was just wondering. He was like, because you
said your
came
whole
in.
name.
No, he's like, you came in dressed in all black, and then like you told me your whole name. So I thought maybe you're like a rock star or something. I was like, no.
So
It was
what
weird
does that
to
say
him, I
about
guess.
Our culture.
Yeah, I don't understand why I can't say my whole name.
You can. I don't know. I would feel like I've never felt the
It does
inclination.
feel like you should be someone.
Let me just
If you
tell
say
you,
your whole-
you never see James Bond walk up and be like, what's up, I'm Jim. It's Bond.
It's because he's
James Bond.
He's someone.
He actually said it. They don't know who he is.
The only
Till he
thing
tells
I
them.
guess,
Do you think you would do it if Ted was short for something?
Ted is short for something.
Yeah, but not in your
Not
case.
in your name.
Not in your case.
Yeah, it is.
Teddy.
Teddy is my name.
Well, yeah,
But if it
I
was like
mean,
Theodore.
if it was Theodore,
It's not Theodore.
But if you were like,
But if it
"Hello, I'm
was-
Theodore Shuttlesworth Jr.
that would be a
Be a bit.
that'd be a commitment to give people that whole name.
I'm going to start doing it like Bond did and be like Shuttlesworth. Ted Shuttlesworth.
I don't know. Why
Nice
is
to
that
meet
weird?
me.
Why do you think that is weird to say your whole?
I think it's weird. In some cases, obviously, like a
So,
medical
but it's not weird
examination.
if you're. But it's not weird if you're
prostate
famous.
exam. You know.
Like you wouldn't like if Dave Chappelle walks up.
Yeah, I'm Dave Chappelle.
and
He wouldn't do
He
that.
can get.
I don't
he would
think Dave
say.
Chappelle would
I
do
think
it.
he would say Dave. But if he
I'm
does
Dave.
say Dave Chappelle, it's not. Hey, I'm Dave Chappelle.
I feel like
It's
if you
not.
don't use your last name, it's because you assume people should know who you are. Like,
Again-
he shouldn't have to say Chappelle. You know
Again,
who
though,
he is.
he is a public figure. So maybe that's why it's not weird to say I'm Dave Chappelle.
Because
Right.
he is a public figure.
Yeah. Like I
Maybe.
don't. If I
So you
meet
can't just
someone
be Joe Schmo
that I
and be
think
like, hey.
okay, we're gonna be friends. I don't be like, my name's Alexander Robert Iaquinto.
I didn't
I
say
would
my
think you
full
would.
name with a middle.
Just take out Robert.
My
Hi,
name's
I'm
Alex
Teddy Allen
Iaquinto.
Shuttlesworth Jr.
My name's Alex Iaquinto. I feel like that's
Yeah, but he's known in the minor outlying territories.
That is, well, that is true.
the minor outlying territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Like-
never
like
forget them.
Guam.
We never forget the minor
Virgin
outlying
Islands.
Puerto Rico.
territories.
Puerto Rico. Hey.
But yes,
The other ones?
I don't know.
The other ones.
I think in the next episode we should delve deeply into this
Why
idea
you
of
feel the need
I
to
don't
say your whole name.
Last question. How often do you think about the Roman Empire a week?
Oh, an inordinate amount.
Can't think of a time I haven't
unhealthy-
thought.
What was that? What was that YouTube thumbnail about?
No. Okay, so I just answer
Why
the
are
question.
why are so many people inordinately thinking about the Roman Empire?
But do you, like, honestly, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? You'd say like a week.
I'm gonna tell you, but this is gonna sound weird, but I think more about Count Chocula on a regular basis, or Frankenberry, the individual, not the cereal, the actual character Frankenberry,
Right.
more than I think about the Roman Empire.